What is up, all of you beautiful people, and welcome back to the No Name Baseball Podcast with myself, Robert Donaldson, and my buddy Adam Rosenberg. And you guys can follow us on Twitter. For me, at RobDFB, and for Adam, at Hey Rosenberg. And it's been it's been a fun little week of baseball. I mean, we had the A's stretch extended to this week. Obviously, the reverse boycott, which is just hilarious terminology to use. We are reverse attending and doing this podcast right now, and we're watching bets right now, and it's been an up and down week for the betting side of things, but at least for me on my end. But Adam, man, how's your week been going?
The week's been look up until today. The week's been going great on the prop side. I kind of I think a lot of people know who follow you and I. You and I both take different angles to some of the betting, and you're very good on the sides and totals, and I think I'm pretty good on the props. And we were cruising, and then this week, everyone everyone hit home runs yesterday, and then nobody decided to hit today. Unders, we have a little bit of a June swoon. But that happens with baseball. It's a 162 game season. This is what is going to happen. It would be very different. I didn't feel really good about the reads. These aren't darts. I think today, today we both really liked that Cubs under, which was DOA after the fourth inning. But you know what? There's plenty of season left. Things are good. My Phillies are one of the hottest teams in the league. Surprisingly, they were above 500 for the first time all season. There's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, your Phillies, and honestly, you could have telegraphed a Phillies outbreak like this, I think, because over the past 3-4 series, I mean, every single person in that lineup was smoking the ball, even all the way down to Brandon Marsh, who was sitting what, 6th, 7th, 8th, even sometimes.
And they moved him up to 2 because of that.
Yeah, and when you have guys that are across the board hitting the ball that well, and you have that kind of versatility, whether it's lefties and righties, you're gonna eventually break out. I mean, no team that scores 5+ consistently is gonna lose a lot of ball games.
Yeah, it also helps to play in June and have Kyle Schwarber on your team, who just hit Mr. June himself just hit another home run as we are recording this in sunny Oakland. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about that team is that look, I'm not I'm not high on that team overall. I think that there's a lot of wear and tear in the wrong areas, and I think that a lot of last year everything had to go exactly right. But look, there's a lot of guys. I make a lot of jokes. I think last week you and I were talking about, Jordan Lyles, and Jordan Lyles is the kind of guy that under the hood is serviceable, and also basically looks, in my opinion, is probably a future Philly. He he is the kind of person who, I mean, look, there's not much of a difference when you break it down between Jordan Lyles and Noah Syndergaard last year. They're kind of the same pitcher. And it seems like the kind of guy that the Phillies would go after. Phillies still haven't figured out their 5th starter option, but this team always has that ceiling. If Bryce Harper's on your team, you got Bryce Harper and Trey Turner on your team, your ceiling is always going to be pretty high.
Yeah, 100%. If you have guys like that in your lineup, you're always going to have a nice little floor, or at least a sweet spot where, these guys can't be this bad for so long. That's kind of what's happening to the Cardinals, though. When you look at Nolan Gorman, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, this is a lineup, and especially in that middle, Wilson Contreras, that should be, have a high floor. And we'll get into them. You know what? Let's dive into them right now. I really want to talk about the Cardinals because dog shit. I mean,
yeah. Are they still? They were losing to the Mets big time out of the game, which I thought was a great. Oh, they lost. That's done. I thought it was a great spot for them too.
Yeah, and we'll get into it a little bit later. Also, with just kind of some of the advanced numbers, maybe even the betting trends. Maybe that's a little bit of a spoiler or a look ahead there for this later in this episode. But right now, that lineup is just, they can't score runs, and the pitching is just not elite level to be able to maintain any kind of winning pace when they aren't scoring runs the way that they are. And even a team like the Mets, who have been through the ringer of just mediocrity over the past month plus, they can make the Cardinals look like the worst team in baseball. And it's not a fun product right now that they're putting out there. I don't really think there's a clear change that they can make to shift the tide, but right now it's as bad as it gets.
It's funny because that division, I had looked at the odds right before we got on because I was like, oh, what's the angle here? And it's the Brewers at flat, it's like 110, and then everybody else is between plus 600 and plus 800, which the division's still pretty wide open. But I feel badly because like you and I talked about, there's guys on that Cards team that I really like, and I don't want to spoil things for some comments I have later on, but there's some guys on that team I really, really like. And I'm trying to find ways to slice the data, and I can't find things to be excited about. Like for example, like Adam Wainwright, the is Wainwright able to stop the bleeding tomorrow? I don't think so, actually. And I'm like, maybe he's better on the road, or maybe something, which by the way, like, for everyone listening or anyone watching, like, I hate home road splits. Like, look past more than home road splits. But anyway, I was trying just to find something to cling on to, and I couldn't. So it's tough in I don't know, you guys aren't Birdland, or the Orioles are Birdland, but it's tough right there. But the thing is that I don't think that the Brewers are that exciting either. So I don't know. Are we gonna get our first below 500? Could we get up possibly our first below 500 division winner?
Oh my
Being the NL
gosh.
Central.
It honestly could happen. And this Cardinals team, dude, they're on pace for 63 wins.
which would probably only be 7 games out of first place.
Yeah, they might steal national, like a wild card spot or something at that rate. But my gosh, man, the Cardinals, the way they're trending right now is looking like potentially the worst team in modern baseball history, or at least for this franchise. And it's baffling because this lineup does feel like it's loaded with talent. It does feel like the minor league system is loaded with talent, and at least by the pitchers by name and by old resume coming into the season, were at least supposed to be at least somewhat serviceable, and everything has just gone completely wrong. And all night long, or every single other game, it's just a different issue that's killing them. And I'm done talking about my Cardinals. I'm sick of it. Well, God had to address it because they really are one of the worst teams in baseball right now. Probably, I'd say bottom 3.
I mean,
truly.
they're still getting listed as a favorite. This is like comparable to in football. Who was it that last year? Maybe was it the Saints? I don't know. There was a team that they just kept getting listed. Oh, it was the Packers. It was the Packers kept getting listed as a favorite. The Packers should never really have been a favorite ever last season. And the Cardinals, I believe, they were favorites yesterday. They were 145 favorites the other day. Like, just things like that you got to ask yourself, well, what's going on here? Cardinals really got to get together. I'm not impressed with a lot of things. There's some talent on that team that I'm very worried is going to get wasted and ruined.
Yeah, well, you know what? Let's shift course, because again, just depressing just hearing how bad the Cardinals are at this point. It breaks my heart, killing the joy of the summer. But you know who's not killing the joy of the summer, and that's the Oakland A's.
Yes.
From the worst team, quote unquote, in baseball, to not only taking it to the Pirates and not only taking it to the Brewers, but taking it to the goddamn Rays. I mean, They put it on the Rays, made every single game a game, and they won 2. They split the series with the Tampa Bay Rays, and they had a reverse boycott that felt like a scene out of Moneyball, truly.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing, man. And what are your thoughts on just what this stretch has been for the A's? How do you think it's happening? Take me through what your thoughts are on this team.
So I apologize. While we were talking, my night turned because one of my home run props hit. Milwaukee, Mr. Waymer has done something well. Or at least I think so. I got capital letter sent to me. Look, here's the thing with the A's, and as a former Oakland resident, I had a lot of friends who went to that game. So this happens every year. Someone comes to town. Like last year, the Astros did it. I believe the year before the Yankees did it. Or 2 years before, like we're not counting that COVID year. But every year in June or July, a team comes to Oakland and they get swept out, and people didn't start to get excited and do whatever. Oakland's got a lot of it's got some good guys. The problem with that team is that Oakland is not, none of these guys are here for the long haul. So what's going to happen? So I think it's really exciting. I think it is a really good story, especially given everything that's going on with that franchise. I mean, I'm not even sure I totally know at this point. Is it, Bryce Harper, I think, said the other day, Vegas should just get their own franchise and do this. I do know that people really love going to Vegas Aviators. That's the minor league team that's there. I know people have a lot of fun going to that one, but it's the will they or won't they? They've been saying it forever. And obviously I have a big tie to the A's because they used to be in Philadelphia, not when I was born, because I was not born in 1942. But look, they're a fun team and they've always been a great team. And we all love that kind of money ball. But it's been fun to watch them punch back because in the lead up to this, they were the punching bag and everyone just saying, oh, the A's are so decrepit. Like, look at this. And you and I have been saying there's guys under the hood, like pitching tonight, but JP Sears he's got good stuff. You and I were both high on Fuji earlier in the season. We'll see. He might figure some stuff out. He's kind of gotten that good bullpen hybrid role. He did fine the other night, did serviceable. But there's guys on that team that are night in, night out that are trying, like the Brent Rookers of the world, the Seth Browns of the world. Ryan Noda is headfirst into the bag every single night. And so it's a lot of that stuff, and it's been a cool story. I actually liked the A's tonight against my Phillies. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if this team can ruin things for a lot of people that are trying to punch down on them. So.
Well, listen, I'm going to slightly go even above what you just said. I think the A's are even more legit than just like a good story and that had a nice little stretch run against a top dog. I mean, you just mentioned JP Sears. We might, I don't want to spoil it. I have some fun planned.
I know. I think
involves the Oakland A's.
Do we want to go right to the trivia stuff now? Because I feel like
let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm going to lead off with a pitcher.
Okay, do it. Give it to me.
So I'm going to give it to you.
Are we going to edit this and put, like, one day we'll edit and we'll put music in the background for this.
So we got to have some like drum roll, please type thing.
So those that are listening, if you guys have music that you want to have as the trivia music, because we're going to do this every single episode, let us know if it's your original tune, maybe. But that's our challenge to everybody. If you have something that you want to have as the official trivia music, let us know.
Love it. Let's hop right in here.
Okay.
So I've added a clarifier to each one of these. I felt like that might make it a little bit easier. I narrowed it down to a league. So I'm giving you half of the league to pick from rather than the full league. But this American League pitcher, okay, so we're talking about the AL, is leading Major League Baseball over his last 3 starts in terms of average hard hit percentage allowed, with a staggering mark of only 12.5%. And if you extend it out another game, it's still under 13%. And this guy is a true no-name baseball player who is relatively young in the scope of the league, that is. And although he isn't a major strikeout guy, he does limit hard contact, he rarely walks guys, and he's only allowed 6 total runs over his last 22 innings pitched. Who is this player?
Hold on. I have a feeling this you and I may. So I just want to make sure if I'm understanding the qualifiers correctly. And then another reason why you and I are friends, if we possibly pick the same guy. But you are saying that, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. This guy, his last 3 starts has basically been lights out.
Pretty darn lights out.
Okay, I'm going to ask this. Is it Joe Musgrove?
It's not Joe Musgrove.
Okay, all right.
The one qualifier you missed there was AL.
Oh, that's right. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So AL. Okay, so then AL. Hold on. Let me guess on this one. So the last three starts. AL. Zach Eflin.
Not Zach Eflin. That is
Okay.
Hogan Harris.
What? From the A's?
That is Hogan freaking Harris, who has been absolute nails in his last 4 outings. And 2 of those outings, Tampa Bay Rays, Houston Astros, 2 of the hottest lineups in the league right now. The lefty man, the A's have produced another guy. He's 26. His first season really getting starting time in the majors at all. And not only is he making the most of it, he's leading the major leagues in terms of limiting hard contact. He's inducing a lot of soft contact. And yeah, he's capping out right now at maybe 3 strikeouts a game through 6 innings, but
Whatever.
it doesn't matter. He's not
Greg
allowing
Greg
base
Maddox
runners.
wasn't Greg Maddox was painting. He wasn't doing that. That's fine. That's fine. Well, dude, I mean, because I've seen it, like I've noticed that like Hogan Harris actually isn't giving up bombs. Also, what a badass name, right? I
Oh,
mean, uh,
incredible. If he had a
it,
handlebar
oh
mustache.
yeah. I mean, I think we gotta if we got people that listen that are in Oakland, like tell me that you guys are making that outline of the face with Hulk Hogan, but it's Hogan Harris and it's green on gold. That would be there's your $1 million t-shirt idea. Let's hear about it. So if you're out in Oakland.
Love it. All right, hit me with one. Hit me with one. Let's keep it
All
going.
right. Well, so look, so this one, so because I kind of spoiled this, like my pitcher, I kind of spoiled it
Oh,
before, but look, but it's
yep.
fine. But I will tell you this because I think it's really important that everybody hears these kind of stats. So this guy has lowest. So look, we'll go right through the answer. The answer is Joe Musgrove, and that's the thing for this. But lowest hard hit rate by a considerable amount over the past 3 weeks, which is essentially 3 starts. His is around 12%. That's just why I was thinking about it
Yep.
with Hogan Harris. 3-0, 23 innings pitched, averaging 8 Ks per nine, a 1.93 ERA during that time. And it's even more impressive because he started that season 1-2 with an ERA of 6.75, and he had that up until 3 weeks ago. So like Joe Musgrove has turned it on to an unreal degree. The Padres, by the way, have started hitting. But with that, I think I will do my quiz answer is um this team has the third lowest K rate over the past 2 weeks. Second highest walk rate during this time. So they're doing that. They're seven.
Hmm.
They have a top 10 batting average. They have a top 3 on base percentage. So this is a team that is small balling its way in there. They're top 12 slugging, but nothing crazy. But they only have 12 home runs during this time in the last 2 weeks. So they are absolutely using small ball to get on base consistently. They're not striking out and they're taking a lot of walks. What team is
Hmm.
this?
That is a tougher one. Let's see. Small ball lineups. I was leaning towards Baltimore, but their offense has been pretty bad, so I'm gonna stay away from it. Tampa Bay is
That's
in that
close.
discussion, but
It's not Tampa. It's not Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has cooled off considerably, but no, this is not. This basically what I'm describing is essentially like an old school Oakland A's team, but is not the Oakland A's.
I'm going Diamondbacks.
Not the Diamondbacks. It is the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pittsburgh Pirates are back.
Okay.
The other team that is back that you and I left for dead 3 weeks ago during their May swoon. But not so much tonight, but the Pirates are getting on base. Mitch Keller is looking human at times, but he's still pretty dominant. I think the biggest thing is probably that Rich Hill has probably come back down to earth for them. But look, these guys are getting on base consistently, and this is a team that was terrible against lefties last year. I think they're second or third in the league now in this against them. So the Pirates, again in that division, they're about plus 800 to win that division, which is wide open. But are the Pirates the Pittsburgh Oakland A's? I mean, maybe.
I like it. And honestly, I don't even mind them as, yeah, a future bet. I don't even mind betting them right now, just kind of in general. I do think they have some guys in that lineup who are swinging a hot bat. But let me give you my lineup here. Let me give you my lineup. So again, I'm going to cut it in half for you. This
Sure.
National League lineup since June 1st has been smacking baseballs all over the place to a tune of a hard hit percentage of 42.9%, which ranks first in baseball by a wide margin. We're talking over 3% in that time span. And they're also not hitting the ball softly either. Their soft contact percentage is at 11.6% over that time, which also ranks first in baseball. Additionally, this team ranks in the top 10 in terms of home runs during that span. However, and this is the big caveat, this lineup also ranks 26th in total runs scored over this span, and their batting average on balls in play is fifth worst in the major leagues. Which lineup is
Wow.
this?
Okay, so they're hitting hard, but they're leaving guys on base. Is that was basically it's basically what we're hearing. Okay, so is it? It's not. Well, it's not the Cardinals because the Cardinals aren't getting anybody on base. Is it?
And I will also make the caveat because I do think it slipped through the cracks. So
Okay,
balls put in play, their batting average is fifth worst. So they're hitting the ball hard. They're just landing in gloves and getting
okay.
outs.
So is it the Seattle Mariners?
It's actually the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh, it is the St. Louis Cardinals. All right, well there you go. I mean, I thought about this because I was like, because well, a lot of these guys consistently are they're hard. I'm like, well, there you go. So that I mean, I'm sorry, you just relived your own pain.
I told myself I wouldn't do it in the beginning of this episode, and here we are, 5 minutes
Yeah.
later. But no,
Um.
man, it's the Cardinals are smacking the ball. They're hitting the ball hard. They're hitting a lot of home runs, top 10 in home runs, and they are 26th, fifth worst in all of baseball in terms of scoring actual runs. There's just something fundamentally wrong with that picture. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. All right. So then here's what I got for you. Here's a player who has the fifth highest hard hit rate over the past week. This dude is, as you say,
Mm.
stinging the ball. Hitting 440 during the stretch. He's got 3 extra base hits, 5 RBIs. He's had a week. He's in the NL. Who is he?
All right, 5 extra base hits, first in
5
hard
extra
hit
base hits.
percentage.
Yeah, batting 440. 3 extra base hits. So only one of them's a home run. So
Only
like
one
whatever
home run.
one home
Oh,
run, but
okay. So
yeah
that eliminated my Shohei Ohtani
yeah
guess.
yeah yeah. It's not.
I'm gonna go Austin Hayes.
And now no, it's because this is an unofficial Cardinals podcast. It's Jordan Walker,
Oh
who I
my
was talking
gosh.
about. Who I was talking about earlier is someone who I love on that team that I think has been mismanaged. I love Jordan Walker, and Jordan Walker consistently night in night out, even whether he's batting eighth or whether they put him in. Well, what they need to do is they need to put him up at fifth, in my opinion. But he's generally batting at the bottom of the order, and the guy is playing hard the whole time. I know this because nobody, when they're down 5 runs, should be smacking doubles like he does in the bottom of an 8th inning, and he did the other night. I really love Jordan Walker. I don't understand why they sent him down originally. I didn't think that was great, but you and I both know that a lot of guys have been mismanaged on that team. I promise you, there are no more Cardinals references that I have, but I'm very high on Jordan Walker. I think that that's the thing. You have a guy like that. If you let him loose, I mean, put him in fifth, or actually maybe even bat him third and give protection around that order. I just think Jordan Walker is, as you say, stinging the ball and is something to be proud of on that team.
To all the Cardinals fans who are listening to this podcast, please do not go play in traffic. this has been an awful little 15 minutes for you guys because listen, it's unavoidable how talented this lineup is, how they're actually kind of producing under the hood, and it's just not materializing in any games. I mean, this team is losing every single game they play, and they shouldn't. Just based on advanced numbers, they shouldn't. They're defying the odds in the opposite direction, and they're losers of 6 straight. They're 2-8 over the last 10. It's depressing at this point. But let me give you my hitter. So this will wrap up our trivia game, guys. And if you guys have been playing along, throw some in the comments, and I'll try to guess along with you. Why not? It's kind of a fun game actually. But so this National League outfielder since
Okay.
June 1st has been absolutely roping baseballs to a tune of a hard hit percentage of 57.1% to both center field and right center, and right field with pretty even regularity across those three. And in that same span, this player has ripped 4 home runs to a tune of a 778 slugging percentage and a 429 OBP. Who is this ball player?
Outfielder, NL, ripping balls over what's the time period?
Since June 1st.
Okay, so in June, I mean, look, is it Kyle Schwarber? Is it Mr. June? that is one of the guys. I mean, yeah, is it like I'll ask, like, I mean, he only hits home runs is the issue. But oh, actually, let me. Is it JD?
It's
No, I
not
guess he's
JD.
DHing. He's DHing, so it wouldn't be him. Never
Yep.
mind. Yeah. Wait, hold on. One more. Let me think. I'm thinking through. Thinking through. Is it going through my teams, and I'm just thinking who is. Is it? Oh well. Okay. Then it might have been a little bit. I might have caught it before, but it's not. Yeah. I guess I don't know. I would have said. I would have said Schwarber because it's June. So who is it?
It's Jack Slawinski.
Big Jack.
And he is on fire right now. He is literally carrying that Pirates lineup as it stands. Him and Connor Joe really are the guys right now because Brian Reynolds, who is the quote unquote face of that lineup and someone is probably saving that team, is just not doing it to that degree that Jack Slawinski's doing it right now. I mean, and Wrigley, he ripped those two bombs in one game. He had 3 home runs in that series alone. He's hitting balls. He's taking walks. He's not really striking out a whole lot. This guy is just on fire. And the advanced numbers have been screening his name for 2 years now.
Yeah.
Truly, his rookie season last year was one of the more impressive ones. And this guy's just going to be flying under the radar, I think, for another couple years, just the way Brian Reynolds has, because Pittsburgh's not a huge baseball market. This team never really is in the mix at the end. I mean, they might be this year at this point, but if they do make a playoff push, this is the guy that's going to be getting them there.
I mean, I think, look, if you can have a team where you have a guy named Big Jack and you have a guy whose name is Connor Joe, I mean, that's kind of like, that's the thing. I mean, Connor Joe, who, by the way, is deadly against lefties. There's a lot of guys to get excited about. Wait till Cruz comes back. I mean, because he should be back in August, end of August. And he just has ropes too. But yeah, Big Jack is he's been fun to watch. He's been fun to watch some matching, and that's a great ballpark to do that in too.
Beautiful ballpark. Beautiful
Yeah,
ballpark.
one of my faves.
Well, hell yeah, man. That's gonna wrap up our trivia segment. But I love that. Isn't that so fun just to like go under the hood, and even when you're just kind of doing this trivia segment, it's kind of nice to make these little qualifiers because I start liking players even more, or I start disliking players even more, or whatever
Oh
else.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can really go under
find
the
the
hood.
trend. You find
Yeah.
the trend for like what you're wanting to do. Like this wasn't one that I was going to use, but I tweeted this out like earlier. But something I noticed. This sort of dovetails into our, like, other teams that we're noticing. Teams we're kind of down on. I'm really getting down on, like, or I have been down on certain players on Toronto Blue Jays, specifically one Vlad Guerrero, who I started noticing over the last week and a half. Started noticing that he's not getting the ball out of the infield at all, and he's getting every hit he's getting is a single. And then I started looking around and I remembered that he had reported knee soreness in May. And so I did the math and I looked around, but up until May 16th, Vlad Guerrero is batting over 300, looked like the guy that everyone wants as an MVP, 7 home runs, 18 extra base hits. Since May 16th, 241 average, 2 home runs, 5 extra base hits in the past month. And the biggest thing about it is that his launch angles plummeted. So when in baseball, honestly, like, for me, the biggest things that I care about contact rate, I care about exit velocity, I care about launch angle. Because if you're hitting balls into the ground, or if you're hitting them up too high, you're popping them up. He's hitting everything's negative, which means that he's basically hitting really, really hard grounders, which probably means that he's not getting any power. He's probably just swinging with the top of his body. He's not getting anything out of his lower body, which probably means that he has some sort of injury down there. So it's something that I would watch. I was never really high on the Blue Jays to begin with, but like Blue Jays bettors and fans or whatever it is, I would watch this. I think that you and I talked about it earlier today. We thought there were some angles and things, but Vlad is not that automatic guy right now, and it just looks like there's something wrong when you look under the hood, and you wouldn't have expected it.
Yeah, and you kind of bring up that launch angle and in comparison to just an exit velo, just pure as like a raw number in a vacuum. And it can be very telling. I mean, for years, the guy who led Major League Baseball in terms of that specific metric of exit velo, but terrible launch angle was Marcell Ozuna.
Yeah.
and people would shit on him every single chance they got because, yeah, the dude wasn't getting extra base hits. He wasn't particularly fast or talented in the outfield with his glove, and that's really what's kind of saving Vladdy at this point. Is the lineup around him is great. He's still a Gold Glove caliber defender, and he's surprisingly fast for a guy his size. He does steal quite a few bags. Kind of like almost like the Paul Goldschmidt of just the timely steals when he was in Arizona. But yeah, man. And now that we're kind of talking about, let's jump right into betting trends and betting angles that we've been kind of digging over the past, I don't know, entire season. It can really be whatever
Yeah.
parameter you want to set. If you just want to talk about betting angles coming up or the past week, we can do that. I'm going to lead off.
Yep.
And one of the ones that I think has just been really telling across the board, we've seen it with the Cardinals, with the Guardians, and now I think we're starting to see it with the Rays, is when teams go on long consecutive game stretches, the offense falls. It just does. And that's easy to predict. And right now the Rays are on a stretch where they're going to be playing 18 games in 17 days. So it's just a point right now at the end of this Padres series this weekend. If you want an angle where you can just kind of, I'm just going to bet that, you can bet the under in every single game for the total. You can bet the Rays team total to go under whatever it's set at. And I think you probably will come out as a winner. It's just something that is hard, fast, loving this angle. And I've been loving it since a couple years now, but it really starts to pick up in June, July when teams have this long stretch and it's already kind of built into the season.
I've definitely seen. Well, look what's happened. One of the things I've been noticing on that is the Rangers, who
Yeah.
it went through, I think, a span of something close to that, where it was 21 straight games, I believe, is what they're almost about to be finished. Basically, if you're seeing a team that's playing on Monday, that team is in the middle of a pretty brutal 3-week stretch, because generally the way the off days work is Monday or Thursday. But the Rangers are one of them, and with the exception of that one game against the Angels during that series, they kind of, guys are hitting, but things have kind of cooled off. There's you and I are both big Jonah Heim guys. I mean, there's a lot of guys on that team, but some folks are kind of, I wouldn't even say cooling off, but maybe just kind of, things aren't lighting things on fire like they were 3 weeks ago. And part of that's just exhaustion. But you kind of reminded me of like an angle that I also look at, is that if a guy is hitting really well and then he has an off day, he's reset for me, because there's nothing that's different. There's nothing that I hate more than taking like the hot guy out of his rhythm and being like, here, you sit here and just don't swing the bat for a bit. One that I've been paying attention to has been the Phillies big guns versus, so the Phillies last year were fantastic against left-handed pitching. It kind of got them through the season. This year, not so much, except on the road. I don't know what it is, because they play in a fantastic home run ballpark. But guys like JT Realmuto, all JT's home runs are on the road. He's crushing left-handed pitching on the road. That's why I really liked him tonight. And he hit one tonight. But that's the only thing that he's doing. Like Castellanos is doing the exact same thing. Harper seems due, but it's he's still hitting the ball well. But that's something I've been looking at, is looking at some of these guys and forgetting about, just think about, like, maybe there's pressure when they're at home or something like that, but just try to see if they have just this abnormal split of, it's probably about an 80 percentage point average difference that I'm seeing on JT on the road against lefties. So look, you play half your games on the road, and probably a quarter of those at least will be against left-handed pitching. So kind of look at some of these things. It's one of the few times that I do like to use splits, and I look at that stuff. So that's something that I have been paying attention to, in addition to a couple teams and a couple players and stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, and I've definitely been looking at those under the hood numbers as well. And I'm intrigued to follow this entire Phillies lineup. I feel like you could bet a single guy every single night, and he's probably going to hit
Yeah,
to some
yeah.
degree. You can bet total bases, you can put hits plus runs plus RBIs, even home runs. Right now, that entire lineup is just red hot, and they definitely are producing against lefties. Whereas a lot of people coming into the season were questioning whether they could live up to that. With losing Reese Hoskins, that's a big one. But let me actually change up the pace a little bit.
I
Oh,
disagree. As a Philly fan, so I like Reese Hoskins, but I his walk rate has gone down his last 4 years. Like, I like Rhys Hoskins, but I'm also like practical. This is very inside baseball, and as everyone knows, that this is the No Name Baseball podcast is actually a secret Phillies and Cardinals podcast. But I've long thought
Probably
that
not
the
the
Phillies,
Cardinals.
I've long thought that the Phillies should move Alec Boehm to first base, save the 12 million, and trade Rhys Hoskins. Like, what I wanted to see happen was like trade him in the middle of the season, pick up another starter, because like he could go somewhere and he'll be fine. I think thinks this is his last year of arbitration too. So he got hurt. There's now talking about him coming back. He doesn't really do much because he's not good at taking pitches. But yeah, look, that whole lineup in theory is pretty nasty. I mean, when you're getting Bryson Stotts, who is Bryce Harper's favorite human, they're both Vegas boys. He has been crushing the ball lately, all season actually, and he's never has been telegraphed as a power hitter. But he's it's pretty fantastic to watch. So yeah, like that Phillies team has that kind of ceiling. I still think that I think that their number is like plus 800 or higher to win that division. It's no lower than that. I mean, the Braves are minus 750, but look, I think the Braves have a lot of pitching issues across
Yeah,
the board
I think so too.
that are going to start getting exposed even more so. There's look ahead spots that I'm seeing this with, like Elder starting tomorrow, and you and I love fading him. So
Yep. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Braves have a lot of issues with their pitching rotation, and their bullpen as well. And what's kind of interesting is, yeah, their lineup is their trump card, but as we know, lineups start to fade down the stretch when it gets a little bit colder outside. So going into September, October, obviously they're going to be in October, or at least in that mix. This is a team I don't want to really be behind. If you have a World Series ticket, obviously you're not selling it and you're not discouraged like if you were holding the Cardinals or something like that. But I also wouldn't be bullish on them they wouldn't be in my top 3 in terms of teams I would take to win the World Series right now. And I think that's a hot take when you kind of consider how that lineup has looked and how many games they've won, and how it's pretty much a lock that they're going to be in the postseason. But yeah, I'm right there with you on the Braves and the pitching rotation. I kind of want to shift it a little bit. So we've been
sure.
showing the A's a lot of love here, and I kind of want to talk about just how one of their components is playing, especially down the stretch over the past since mid-May, late May, and that's their bullpen. Because all season long, coming into the about mid-May, late May stretch, the A's bullpen was absolutely their Achilles heel. Their bullpen ERA was at 6.4 for most of the season, and they have really started to turn it around. I mean, you brought up Shintaro Fujinami. His last 8 appearances, he's only had 2 outings that resulted in runs being scored. And he's also, in that same stretch, down to top 20 in Major League Baseball of starters and relievers in terms of limiting hard hit percentage. This guy has started to really turn it around. Obviously, he has great stuff to build around, but even as a whole, they are sitting firmly, and I mean firmly, in the top 10 in terms of limiting hard contact across the board in that bullpen. They've cut down their walk rate exponentially, and since just June 1st has been the date that I've just kind of defaulted on.
No,
this
it's a good.
podcast.
Well, it's a good. The weather turns. It's a good. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a big deal for.
fresh
That's why it's
month.
called Boys of Summer. It's very different. Yeah.
Yeah, and since June 1st, they're posting a 3.69 cumulative bullpen ERA. So and that ranks 12th in baseball right now. So if you want an angle, and for betting terms, now the A's full game is live. And it really is, especially plus 1.5, and you're going to get some decent prices on that. It's still, because there is this kind of perception that the A's, they're just kind of going through a hot stretch. They're going to tail off. That might be true to a degree. I don't think they're going to be winning 7 to 10 every single, for the rest of the way out. But they are going to be in a lot of ball games just because their bullpen's not going to be giving up 11 runs every single time anymore. And when you are in ball games, that has to instill some confidence in a lineup, especially when you have a young lineup. If you feel like you're out of the game, what's the point in trying your best at the plate? Unless you're a veteran trying to get to another contract. A lot of these young guys, they feel like what's the point? There's a lost cause in this game. Might as well just ship it and go to the next one. Well, now we're seeing a lot of late game runs from them, a lot of late game comebacks against good teams, and it's starting to look like a better picture. They're looking like major league ball players. And right now, might even be a hotter take as well. They're a top 20 team in baseball, catching lines like one of the bottom 5. There's some value right there.
I mean, they lead the league in come from that as of 2 weeks ago, they led the league in walk-offs.
Yep.
So I think with 4 or 5, which is pretty impressive, third through the season. Look, people wanted to fade the heck out of the Nats too, and the Nats are quietly one of the better hitting teams. No one could probably name guys on this team, and a lot of the names feel like Alex Call is like a create a player generic name, like Stone Garrett. Like he played, I think he played guitar for Pearl Jam. Like these are nothing. All these guys are almost like create a player level names. But dude, Lane Thomas is probably one of the most disrespected players playing right now. You got like guys on the A's. Like, I mean, I believe Ruiz is on pace for like 80 steals. There's a lot of ways to play, and keep in mind, like, people want to hate on them, but once that team starts rolling and playing together, things happen, and they've also just had to play everybody else. So look, I like the A's to cause damage. I like a lot of the teams to cause damage. I think the only team I think that actually is probably, there's 2 teams I think that are as bad as advertised. The Rockies, I think, are as bad as advertised. I think the Rockies may be the worst team in the league. And the Royals. I think the Royals are very bad. I think the Royals are very bad, but they're bad for different reasons. The Royals are bad, in my opinion, and not trying to hijack this. I think it's all part of the same conversation, but the Royals, I think, are bad because I think that there are fundamental baseball issues with how some of their players play that should be better. Like Bobby Witt has massive flaws in his swing and his game, and is way too streaky for a guy who has that much talent. Like he's just not being managed well, in my opinion. And on the Rockies, I just think it's 1, poor roster construction, and 2, just it feels like a lot of players. I mean, Jorge Alfaro is started for them at catcher tonight. Like, what's going on over here? But this the team also just doesn't ever really seem, the starters on that team just don't ever really seem to care. It's and the spark actually was like guys like Nolan Jones coming in there and starting to play as some of these veterans have gotten hurt, like the Blackmons of the world, and these guys, CJs have like I'm a big CJ Cron guy, but a lot of these guys got hurt, and then Nolan Jones came in, and Nolan Jones starts popping home runs and starts doing whatever, gave him a little bit of life. But that team, I do think, like on the pitching side, there's not a lot to get excited about on that team. They can't hit on the road. They really can't hit at home a lot of the times, where it used to be like a given for them. And I think that may be actually what we think the A's are, I think, is actually the Colorado Rockies.
I 100% agree. The only player I really get excited about in that lineup is Randall Grichuk, which really just kind of tells you,
a lot.
Need to know.
Because yeah.
It's not like Randall Grichuk this is second year in the league. I mean, the dude's approaching 10 years as a major league ball player.
Dude, I forgot how many teams he played for. I mean,
he's played everywhere. I mean, people forget, like, this guy's been well traveled, and he had a 4-year career already with the Cardinals ended back in like 2017. So he's approaching 10 years, if this might even be his 10th year. And CJ Cron going out of that lineup sinks it. Chris Bryant being hurt as much as he is pretty much sinks it. And
what a bad contract that was. You don't normally hear about bad hitter contracts. You hear about pitcher ones, but like, it didn't make sense when it happened, and it really doesn't. That's gonna age so badly.
All of those Cubs guys that were kind of being talked about. Wilson Contreras looking like an awful contract right now. Javi Baez looking like an awful contract. Chris Bryant.
Javi's hitting though. I'll give Javi some credit. Javi's starting to hit, but but he's still, but it's never going to be what that contract was.
And his glove is falling off. Crazy. I
also got a bad attitude. He's also got a really bad attitude too. He's like, which I'm not a big fan of. Like, I don't like guys that complain while they're playing about fans or managers being on their case for playing better. Like, I'm sorry. Like, play.
Javi Baez is somehow a worse Jazz Chisholm.
He is a worse Jazz Chisholm. That's a great comparison.
I don't know how that even came to be. I mean, this guy was almost an MVP at one point. It's crazy to think about. But yeah, as far as betting trends, we could go on for hours. Truly,
Right.
like there's so many different angles you can play in a given week and talk about that have a lot of merit and deserve consideration and deserve their own spotlight. Um, but let's kind of move on here. Let's talk about this Saturday slate because this Saturday slate's very interesting. It's a lot of fun, a lot of good angles, I think, and a lot of these angles kind of play into what we've already talked about, whether it was in our trivia, our intro, even just our betting angles that we just gave out in that last segment. Talk to me about just a couple bets that you're loving for the Saturday slate.
So this ties back into a trend, but I really like the return of Justin Steele against the O's. So also just to pause for everybody, I think Cody Bellinger coming back to that Cubs lineup is a big, big, big deal. Um, and I can't even remember if we were recording when this happened, when we talked about this, but Patrick Wisdom, who is pretty much a shell of himself now, really probably shouldn't be in the lineup at all. That the last couple of weeks that team hasn't been hitting well. The top two teams in hitting over the last week have been the O's once they moved Gunner up to the top, and the Cubs. They're playing each other right now. So I am high on the O's from a long-term standpoint. I think that actually really, I still love the O's at 11-1 to win that division. I just think that number is too long for a team that has a bona fide ace in Tyler Wells, is going to get John Means back. But the things that I noticed though, like I'm a big Gibbsy guy, but his last three starts, his hard hit rate has consistently gone up. And that's something that I constantly look for. Like if you're going to have a bad start, like I generally expect a pitcher to have a bad start every two starts. Like the third start should not be great. Like if you're great 66% of the time, you're freaking fantastic. But what I noticed was his and I wrote down my note for it. It went his last three starts went he had a 20% hard hit rate, then a 46% hard hit rate, then a 59% hard hit rate. So that is showing me that there is something, and these are against lineups across the board. So that's saying that, like, and he's always been like a guy. He's really been a three that they kind of are treating him as a one. This Cubs offense, I think, is rolling. I don't usually love to like gravitate towards the favorite, but like I think 130, I think is a great price on the Cubs. I would put that. I think the Cubs should be much higher favorites than that. But yeah, that's something that I am eyeing tomorrow. And as much as we were talking about some of these teams that people just consistently disrespect, I like the Nats as home dogs at plus 140. I just think this Nats team against the Marlins, I know that the Marlins squeaked out a victory tonight, but they were up 5-1 and the Nats came all the way back and tied it. And that's this Nats team plays really smart small ball actually, and they can get back in it at any given time. We watched them take it to the Braves about a week ago. So I like the Nats tomorrow on Saturday at 140. For plus 140, Jake Irvin against Braxton Garrett, and Braxton Garrett's not someone I'm really high on, but yeah, those are kind of two spots that I am looking at tomorrow.
Yeah, I definitely see value with the Nats. I'm right there with you. That was actually going to be one of my two, so I'm going to switch it up here. I'm going to go with a team we just talked about in this last segment. I'm going with the Oakland A's on the money line and also plus 1.5. I mean, you're catching fair prices on both of those. You're catching a really good value on the money line, I think. James Caprielian has been pretty nails over his last four outings. He's limiting hard contact. He's going deep into games. They're using him as a workhorse. He's getting that pitch count up, and he's actually showing a lot of good stuff. Last year, James Caprielian was pretty damn good for 2/3 of the season as well, and people just kind of acted like he was just gonna fall off. Same with Paul Blackburn and all the guys that are on that A's rotation, just because they lost Sean Murphy, they look like a dumpster fire, everything. But Christopher Sanchez on the hill for Philly, and a 26-year-old, making his second appearance in Major League Baseball. I do love an angles play or an athletics play there on that angle. So definitely dabble with the money line. Take the plus 1.5. Really
Yeah,
like that.
I like it a lot.
And then as far as another bet here, I'm just gonna kind of look over which one I want to pick. I'm gonna go with my other one on the Guardians. There's a couple I could have picked here, but I'm gonna go with the Guardians on the money line personally. Shane Bieber, I through the first 2/3 of the season
Yep.
looked like a shell of himself. He was just not there. But this past last third, last 4 or 5 starts, even
He's
more
been
so than
lights
that,
out, man. He's been
lights
what they
out.
needed.
He's been arguably one of the best pitchers in baseball.
I
And
totally agree.
in the Guardians right now, I mean, you're catching fair prices. I'm seeing -125 out there. Listen, a little bit of juice, but Tommy Henry is not a guy who is going to be a lights out type of pitcher, and he's going up against Shane Bieber, who is pitching like Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander of past years, and you're catching a fair price in that type of spot. I mean, you can't pass it up. So I like bets on the Guardians, I like bets on the Nats, and I like bets on the A's tomorrow as well. So those, I guess there's three right there. But yeah, I'm really liking the Saturday slate. I think there's a lot of value, and a lot of value in dogs too, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, I agree. Something like, folks should kind of look for, like, what dogs do I want to, I mean, obviously if you're in it every day, you start noticing trends, you start noticing teams that have a lot of value. Um, in general, just as a tip, I like to give people that it's not as sexy when you can't take as big of a number, but when a dog is below 200, and that everyone says they stink, that's sort of a tell. The A's this entire series against the Phillies, I don't expect to be higher than plus 160 at all, and I think that they're in it for each of these. One other thing for the Guardians, because I was also going to mention this, they're plus 270 right now to win that division, and I know that Tristan got scratched on his start today. I don't know what the deal is with that. I do know from pitcher friends that the injury that he has is a long-term injury, but it's a treatable injury. Um, and I still believe that the Guardians have the best pure hitter in baseball in Jose Ramirez.
Hmm.
It's that lineup is, the team's well coached. The team has a really good farm system of guys that they're bringing up. I think Bo Naylor is going to be playing, I believe, tomorrow as well, who's someone I'm pretty excited about. But the Guardians at plus 270 to win that division is not a bad bet. I don't really think it's going to, if it gets above 300, it's probably out of reach anyway, but they're only a couple games back. And the Twins, look, the Twins are, I'm not a big Joe Ryan guy. Like, I don't think Joe Ryan's ceiling is what everybody thinks it is. And I still think that, like, I like Sonny Gray and I like the story with Sonny Gray, but he's still also Sonny Gray. I don't know how this is going to last all the season. Not a career guy. And I think Buxton is in and out of that lineup. He just got off the DL. So I think that the Guardians on that division right now are not a bad bet.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I went on some show that I did. Who knows at this
Probably
point? But
Greg's. Probably Greg's.
probably Greg's. It probably was Greg Peterson, but I guess you got asked about the AL Central and who I would place my hitch my wagon to, and I said the Guardians. I mean,
Yeah.
and it was so automatic too because of that pitching rotation and the fact that that lineup was so dormant for so long, yet they were still like within one run all the time. I mean, this is a lineup that eventually will find its stride. It's already starting to find its stride as of the past 2 or 3 weeks, and if they can just kind of continue this, production from their lineup, I think their pitching can really do it, carry them all the way. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I like a
agree.
future for them to win the AL Central for sure. Um, yeah, I guess we're reaching that time. We're gonna end this note on what we're gonna be calling the question or the topic of the week, and this is another one of those segments that maybe it deserves its own theme music. So hit us up, man. But let's go with the topic of the week, and we're gonna do, what was it? What is one piece of valuable betting information or advice that has helped you be successful? Pretty standard, pretty straightforward. I'll let you lead off.
If you don't love it, don't bet it. It's simple, but that's the thing. If you don't love it, and there's a difference between loving something and liking something. You can really, really like a play, or you can love a play. If you don't love it, don't bet it. Trust me, things will work out way better if you only ended up betting 2 games, but you love them both. You will feel a lot better even if you went 0-2 on 2 things you loved than you will about going 0-5 on things that you liked.
I love it. Yeah, I volume kills people. I mean, and ultimately because they can't resist the urge to, place that last bet. I mean, just shave
Mhm.
it off. In long run, you'll probably be thankful for it. I 100% agree with that message. The one that I would pick And this is something I try to tell every single person when they ask me, how do you get into this space? How do you end up becoming successful in this space? It's just know your reason for betting. Is this going to be for recreational stuff, like just going out and buying a beer and you have some extra money on the side? Is this something you want to turn into almost like a borderline investment where this is a long term play? You're in it for the long haul. You want to grow a bankroll truly and just kind of steady as it goes and turn it into something that's really nice and respectable on the side. Once you kind of come to grip with that self, you can be honest with yourself. You can check yourself on betting tendencies, like you just talked about, volume. Don't have the urge to just place every single live bet you see or that extra bet in a given day when it's not really necessary. Just know what your goal is, stick to your goal, be disciplined, and ultimately you're going to be one, a lot happier. Two, you're going to be a better, and three, it's going to be less stressful for you. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
the
I mean,
advice I would
you and I
give.
talked about this week. I stopped betting sides. Like, I mean, I was betting sides and props, and then I just is like, but I love my prop angles and like my side angles. There's certain side angles I love. And like I've
Mhm.
done that. And it's like, I loved the under today. It didn't work out, but I was okay with it not working out. And there's certain things like that, but lean into what you really like. And because I think the biggest problem is that people think that they have to be betting every single sport. And like what my
Yeah.
best thing that I did was I stopped betting NBA during like this, even during this hardest part, which is the hardest part, which is the championship. I stopped betting NBA. I focused, and I'd never done baseball betting really seriously until this year, until like you and I became friends, and I got really serious about it. And I stopped betting all the other stuff, and I just focused on doing one thing really, really, really well, and it reaps benefits.
Yeah. 100%. And I like that. I stick to my four sports: NFL, college football, college basketball, and MLB. I don't dabble outside of it. For Christmas this year, I bet the NBA and I posted those plays. It went 0-2.
There you go.
So that's just the universe telling me, stop it. Who do you think who are you kidding? But yeah, stick to what you know. There's no way that I could put the time in that I do to MLB on the NHL as it's happening and the NBA as it's happening
Not a
all at
chance.
once. Not even remotely close. I have a hard enough time doing NFL and college basketball and college football during that season. I really that's why I've kind of stayed away from college football betting over the past few years is because and I still do bet it, just not the same volume that I used to because I really found angles that I loved more in the NFL and in college basketball especially. So when you talk about volume, checking yourself, sticking and honing in on certain sports, I think that's also a third piece of great betting advice that if you do that, you're going to be a lot more successful in the long run.
And listen to this pod. This pod will definitely make you itch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tail every single. We're gonna take a record too. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
write
we'll
down your
start doing
bets. I'm gonna
that.
write
We'll
down
start
mine.
doing it.
Yeah, because we gave out four bets on this video or on this podcast for
We'll do
tomorrow's
another thing.
slate.
I mean, hey, you know what?
Let's
Actually, while
see.
we have people, like we don't look, there's no while we have the last thing, I'll give let me see if I can find a real quick prop angle for tomorrow. Let's see. Detroit, who's Detroit playing? Detroit's playing I like all right. I'll give out that lines aren't up for a lot of these guys. Okay, you know what? This works really well because I'm not big on Braxton Garrett tomorrow. So without looking at it, I'm gonna tell you, and having watched some of the Nats tonight, um, I would look at Dom Smith to hit a home run, or I would look at Lane Thomas to his hits and runs tomorrow. At the look, I would have to look at their stuff in front of me and look at some of the numbers and things. But look, Braxton Garrett has a over the last 3 weeks has the highest amongst the starters tomorrow. He's the highest home run fly ball ratio. Gives up a lot of hard contact. And look, we already said we like the Nats, so why not sprinkle on a couple players that you could cheer for during it. So that's it. That's also like your fourth piece of betting advice. Try not to, if you're going to bet a side, try not to bet also on something that's counterintuitive to your side. Like the worst thing to do, and I've talked about this with Rob, because sometimes I've done this. I'm betting, I have bet on the under, and then I bet the other teams to hit like 3 home runs. Like it's basically ripping your hair out.
Yeah, there's nothing more infuriating when you're basically pulling against yourself at a certain point in the game. 100% agree. I don't see any props for the guy that are available props right now for the guy I want to take an angle on. But listen, I'm not a Blake Snell guy at all. But there is a certain angle that I believe in more, and that is that this Rays lineup is going to be having a little tough weekend here, just exhaustion. You know, their fatigue is running high, and I do think Blake Snell in a sort of a revenge angle type spot at home in a pitcher friendly ballpark can go pretty far in this game. So I would take his outs to go over whatever it's set at. Usually it's probably gonna be around 17 and a half, maybe even 18 and a half. I would take the over. I do think that this is gonna be a longevity game for Blake Snell, and the Rays are a high contact team, but right now it's not hard contact. So I think they're gonna be rolling over a lot of balls. I think it's gonna be efficient for the pitch count, and I do think we see Blake Snell go into the seventh inning here. So that would be an angle I would definitely look to play there. But with all that said, Adam, do you have any of the last things to add before we head out here?
No. Thanks everybody for listening. I'll let you do the spiel, but we just appreciate everybody taking the time. Look, you could listen to anything else for 35, 40 minutes, and you chose to do it with us. So that is not taken for granted.
Yep, absolutely. Love you guys. You guys are awesome. And the support we got in the first episode was incredible. And because of the support we got and all the comments that we got, we decided to roll with No Name Baseball as the official name of the podcast. It just kind of happened like that. And honestly, I kind of dig it. So with all that being said, y'all, we will see you in a future podcast. Take it easy.